Jordan Raanan of ESPN, a beat reporter for the New York Giants, thinks the Giants would pass up on Caleb Williams if they had the number 1 overall pick. He thinks the Giants would select Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels over Caleb Williams. We're going to break that down on today's show. Also, we have other Giants insiders talking about the Giants wanting to draft a quarterback. But before we do, I got to ask you guys this question. Which one of these QBs would you want the Giants to pick? Type CW for Caleb Williams, JD for Jayden Daniels, or DM for Drake Maye. Welcome into Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. If you could, hit that thumbs up icon. Is Caleb Williams off the New York Giants big board? Well, Jordan Raanan of ESPN, one of the most tapped-in beat reporters that covers this team, on his podcast said this: I personally think if the Giants had the number 1 pick, then they would end up with Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels. What are we doing? Is it because he paints his nails? Is it because he cried after a football game? Really? We're going to pass up on a quarterback that could be the next Patrick Mahomes, or the closest thing we've seen to Patrick Mahomes since he became in this league, to select Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels? Caleb Williams is clearly quarterback 1 in this draft class. Why do we have to make everything so difficult for the New York Giants? Maybe this is a smokescreen. Maybe this is Raanan voicing what he said. Maybe this is him just saying, hey, this is what I've heard. I'm just passing along information. I don't think he'd come to an opinion like this based on his own thoughts without there being some sort of notion that this is the way the Giants were feeling and how he got told to do it. Look, Caleb Williams is a stud, guys. I mean, over the last 2 years, he has 30 touchdowns and 5 picks, 42 touchdowns, 5 picks. That's 72 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. The guy is a stud. There is no way, no how, please, God, do you take Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels over Caleb Williams? When you have the opportunity to potentially select the best quarterback prospect in the last 10 years, you do it and then laugh and then you run and then you let people say whatever you want. And that's no disrespect to Drake Maye. And that's no disrespect to Jayden Daniels. Those guys are great prospects. I think Drake Maye would have went number 1 overall last year over Bryce Young. And I think Jayden Daniels would have been a first-round pick last year. But when you talk about Caleb Williams, you're talking about a franchise changer. Drake Maye's good. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the stats are awesome. Last year in 2022, he had 38 touchdowns and just 7 picks. This year, down to 24 touchdowns, 9 picks. Rushing yards went down. Passing yards went down. Completion percentage went down. You know why? Because the talent around him went down. But he's still a really good player. And I would still love to have him on my football team. I also think Jayden Daniels is a stud. There's a reason he won the Heisman Trophy. Kind of the opposite of Drake Maye. Jayden Daniels got better from year to year, at least statistically. I mean, look at the jump in completion percentage. Look at the jump in passing yards. Guy from 17 passing touchdowns to 40 passing touchdowns and only added 1 more interception. His yards per attempt went up by 4 yards. His rushing yards went up. He's a really good player. But there's no way I'm taking either of those guys over drafting a guy like Caleb Williams. Conor Hughes, who covers the Giants and the Jets for SNY, said, quote, I think it's a strong possibility that the Giants are going to take a quarterback. He said that via the Raanan podcast, Breaking Blue. Check him out on all streaming services. So you got one beat reporter saying the Giants pretty much don't have Caleb Williams on their big board. You got another beat reporter saying I think it's a strong possibility that the Giants are going to take a QB. Conor Hughes also said the Giants want to have a rookie and Daniel Jones both on the roster for this upcoming season. So maybe that means they'll take one in round 2. Maybe that means they'll take one in round 3. But I do think the Giants may have to make a move if they want to move up and select a quarterback. Or they are going to have to make a move if they want to draft a quarterback. Because I think the first 3 picks are going to be all quarterbacks. I think the NFL draft is going to go Caleb Williams and then Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye. I'm not sure who will go first, but that's what I think the first 2 picks are going to be. How did the Giants get up to pick 1, 2, or 3? Well, Jordan Raanan, also on his podcast, threw out a trade idea. And I'll tell you this. He included a player that you're not going to want to trade. But we'll break it down. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the promo code CLNS, and Prize Picks is going to match your first deposit up to $100. I've already got my lineup made for the Super Bowl, and they're actually running somewhat of a special right now. You can take the more on passing yards for Patrick Mahomes. That's set at just half a yard. I also like Isaiah Pacheco to score at least one time. And I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be a factor in the passing game for San Francisco. I think he'll have more than 35.5 passing yards. You can roll with my picks. You can fade my picks. But if you're going to play daily fantasy sports, do it with our proud sponsor, Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. It's easy and exciting daily fantasy sports. You create a lineup of 2 to 6 players, and you simply choose more or less on their projected stat line. All that information will be clickable down in the comments and description of today's video. Alrighty, Jordan Raanan of ESPN said this is what he thinks it could cost for the Giants to move up to pick 1, 2, or 3 to select one of the top 3 quarterbacks. Your first-round pick this year, your first-round pick next year, one of the Giants' second-round picks, and Jalin Hyatt. Jalin Hyatt. 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and Jalin Hyatt. And I'm going to be honest with you. There is no way in hell the Bears would take that trade. There's no way in hell the Arizona Cardinals would take that trade. And there's no way in hell Washington would take that trade. That is not even close to what it would cost for the Giants to move up. This is my take on moving up for a quarterback, though. If you think Drake Maye, Jayden Daniels, or Caleb Williams are franchise elevators, that's my new term, franchise elevate. A quarterback that elevates you as a franchise. Because right now the Giants are a bottom 10 franchise in the NFL. If you think any of those 3 quarterbacks elevates you, makes you a better organization, takes you to heights you haven't been since number 10 took snaps, you do whatever it takes to move up. It doesn't matter the cost. Because you know why? There's 2 things you need in this league. A quarterback and a head coach. That's what you need. And we don't know if we have the head coach. But we damn sure know the quarterback on this roster is not good enough to win big-time football games in the early parts of the calendar year. My rules to building a franchise. You find your quarterback, and you get your coach, and you go to work. It is a quarterback and coach league. Look at the Texans. They were picking number 2 overall last year. They got a coach. They got a quarterback. They won a football game. You have to go get your quarterback. It's tough to win in this league without an elite quarterback. You know how tough it is? The San Francisco 49ers, by far, have the best roster in the National Football League. When you talk about top players, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Fred Warner, all the D linemen they have, all the injuries they've had to big-time players. Brock Purdy, by just the hair of his chinny chin, had to come back from 17 points in the NFC Championship game to get to the Super Bowl. And that is with the best roster in the NFL. The best roster in the NFL. And you had to have Brock Purdy play out of his mind in the second half and come back from 17. It's tough to win a Super Bowl without a top quarterback. And Daniel Jones cannot win a Super Bowl. Come on, guys. Close your eyes and ask yourself, is Daniel Jones a confetti guy? Do you actually have real thoughts about Daniel Jones seeing the confetti fall on him after winning a Super Bowl? The answer is no. And I see some people in the chat, Purdy's just average. Maybe you didn't listen. They had the best roster in the NFL, and they still had to come back from 17 points in the second half. Maybe you guys just hear what you want to hear, though. The thing with Daniel Jones is this. The Giants put more on his plate this year. They asked more of him because they paid him $40 million. They said, we need you to be the engine to this offense. We can't win with gimmicky plays anymore. And he took a step back. They added a playmaker in Waller. They added a playmaker in Hyatt. And he took a step back. I get it. The O-line did him no favors. Didn't have a lot of time to throw. What about all the time in the world he had to throw against the Seahawks when he threw a pick 6 to a rookie? What about when he consistently underthrew Jalin Hyatt? What about in the first game of the season, he rolls to the right on the Dallas Cowboys, unpressured, and throws a pick right to the guy. What about on the other first game of the season? He throws the pick right to the guy and he drops it. It wasn't just the time in the pocket. Daniel Jones was not good this year, even when he had time to throw. You can't tell me that. If you did, you didn't watch the games. Thing is, you could draft a quarterback and fix the O-line in other ways. Because I know there's people, Marshall, we can't take a quarterback. We can't trade up. We don't have an O-line. We don't have anyone. You can fix the O-line in free agency. How about you sign players that are good instead of signing Mark Lewinsky? How about you run a competent franchise, Joe Schoen? How about you use different pieces of tools and avenues to improve the offensive line? Or wild thought, I don't know if anyone's ever thought about this. How about the New York Giants draft a good offensive lineman on day 2 or day 3 of the NFL draft? Oh, my God. Every other team gets to do it. Every other team finds a second or third or fourth round rookie offensive lineman. Every other offensive line is built by people in the 4th and the 5th and the 6th round. But not the Giants. Not the Giants. Come on, man. Come on. Let's use our heads. Let's use our heads. You get your quarterback and you figure the rest out. That's what this league is about. It's about your quarterback. You think the Lions would be where they're at without Jared Goff? No. You think the San Francisco 49ers, if they didn't have the best roster in the NFL, would get to the Super Bowl without Brock Purdy? No. You think the Chiefs didn't make the right move by trading Tyreek Hill and bolstering up the offensive line and bolstering up the defense and the run game and building around Patrick Mahomes? They said, we have our quarterback. We don't need a $30 million receiver. Come on now. The proof is out there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel works. Just do what other teams do and do what they did to achieve the heights, did what they had to do to get there. It's very simple. Get your quarterback. Get your quarterback. Get your quarterback and see what happens. Because good quarterbacks can overcome bad offensive line play. Good quarterbacks make other players better. You know what bad quarterbacks do? Like Daniel Jones, they play worse than Tyrod Taylor, and they play worse than Tommy DeVito. You get your quarterback, and everything else falls into place. Do you think the Giants should draft a quarterback? Type Y for yes, type N for no. My answer is yes. It really, really is. It's very simple. Why are we waiting another year to watch Daniel Jones play football? Why? I will never understand that. Make sure you are following me over on social media. We can talk more about this over there at Marshall Green on Twitter, at Marshall Green on _. Jesus Christ. At Marshall Green _ on Instagram, at Marshall Green _ on Twitter. Get your quarterback. That's all you need to do.